All right. What is going on? Welcome. Happy recording this on a Thursday. Happy Thursday. So, hope you guys are having a great day so far. It's been a really, really great week. This is actually the week leading up to our vacation. So, my wife and I are going on vacation with our 2.5-year-old son. So, this will be really fun. So, this podcast episode is inspired by the trip coming up because I'm going to talk all about how I plan to maintain my weight while on vacation. So, recently, I started a fat loss phase around like February 12th, I think it was mid February. And as I'm recording this, it is April 3rd. So it's been about 2.5 months, a little over 2.5 months. And I'm down about eight-ish, 7 or 8-ish pounds, which is like a really great pace, right around 1-ish pound of body fat loss per week, which is like a really nice kind of sustainable pace of fat loss. So fat loss phase has been going really well. I've been feeling really good. And just really stoked about the progress I've been making. And it feels nice to be in the fat loss phase again and kind of be in the trenches with my clients because I've been taking a really long maintenance phase or muscle building phase up, until this point. And a lot of my clients are in fat loss phases right now, so it's kind of nice to kind of like endure the fat loss phases with them. Not that they're super miserable, but they can be a little bit challenging, just hunger wise, right? Just eating in a calorie deficit. So, and getting up, my hitting my higher step goal, all that kind of stuff. So it's been fun, and I'm looking forward to when I get back from this vacation, picking back up with my fat loss phase, and hopefully losing another 7 or 8-ish pounds, and then kind of reassessing where I'm at there. But it's been going super well, so I don't want to lose my progress, obviously, and that's the big thing. Like when we go on these vacations, we don't want to go backwards in progress, and we want to maintain our progress as much as possible. So this trip, we are going to Punta Cana. We're going to an all-inclusive resort for a week. So this is like a perfect podcast episode to do too, because if you're able to take away like these tips from this episode and you're able to implement them and be able to maintain your weight at an all-inclusive resort where food, drinks are basically unlimited. You pay up front and you can have as much as you want. If you can maintain your weight in that environment, then you should be able to maintain your weight really in any environment. So I'm going to go over some things that I'm going to do on this trip over the next 7 days to maintain my weight. So let's start with the first thing. So the first thing that I'm going to do, or that I'm currently doing, is I'm actually doing a maintenance week beforehand. A lot of people make the mistake of, okay, I have this vacation coming up. I'm going to be on the beach. I'm going to be in a swimsuit. I want to be as lean as possible. So I'm going to do a fat loss phase leading up to the day before I leave for vacation. And that is one of the biggest mistakes you can make, in my opinion, because when you're in a fat loss phase, while we shouldn't be doing something super restrictive that causes us to really rebound in the opposite direction, like we don't want to do something extreme. In a fat loss phase, if you are doing it the right way and you actually are losing body fat, your body's in an overall calorie deficit, meaning you're burning less than what you're eating, which means your hunger is going to be a little bit higher in that phase versus if you're in a maintenance phase. And what happens when you go through a fat loss phase and you do that all the way up to your vacation is you're in a fat loss phase, you're feeling hungrier. And then the second you stop tracking your food, if you're choosing not to track your food on this vacation, then you're stopping the fat loss phase and flipping that switch off in an environment where the food is just so plentiful. You can have it unlimited, like I said, as much as you want, while also you're out of your element, so you're not even eating the same types of foods that you would eat at home. They're not cooked the same way, so they aren't going to fill you up necessarily the same way either. And on top of that, you're going into that environment after kind of quote unquote restricting yourself a little bit in that previous fat loss phase. So you're kind of creating this perfect storm of, okay, I've been in a fat loss phase for a couple months. I'm feeling extra hungry. I really would like, mentally and physically a break from this fat loss phase. And now I'm going to go into this all inclusive resort where I'm not tracking my food. That really sets you up to binge. So, what I'm doing this week to like prevent any kind of like chance of that is I'm doing a maintenance week actually this whole week. So I brought my calories back up to maintenance for this whole 7 days before we leave for the trip. And, I was having a conversation with my wife actually, and I told her about my maintenance phase that I was doing. Um, and she's like, I don't know, she made a comment, and she was just joking, but she said, oh, like, that doesn't make sense because we're going on vacation. You might as well like keep the fat loss phase going. And, I kind of explained to her, and she's heard me talk about this stuff before. So her comment was kind of a joke. But a lot of people think, well, I have this vacation. I want to squeeze out every ounce of body fat I can before I leave. But the thing is, if I were to stay in a fat loss phase for another 6 or 7 days, I'm really not going to lose that much body fat like in that time frame. Will I lose some? For sure. But that might be an extra pound of body fat I lose. And am I really going to feel that much more confident, like being 1 pound of body fat down going into vacation versus what I, am now currently, now that I'm doing a maintenance, week this week? No, like I'm going to feel the same level of confidence. I'm not going to really feel that different. And you're not even like, nobody would even know visually a difference between me at 198 pounds versus me at 197 pounds of body fat. Like, nobody's going to notice. So, and the trade-off of just trying to squeeze out that fat loss phase for another week, when the possibility of me just like feeling really hungry and really wanted to give into those cravings on the vacation is so much higher, it's not worth it, right? Like you're squeezing out an extra pound of body fat to then maybe gain a pound of body fat or 2 pounds back, whereas actually I could just not do that last week of the fat loss phase, be in maintenance leading into vacation, and not gain any back, and be in the same spot after vacation, but I actually suffered less because I didn't have to suffer that week leading into vacation, if that makes sense. So that's one thing I'm doing, because now, I've been eating around my maintenance calories for the past 4 days or so now. And like my hunger signaling is all like coming back to normal. I'm feeling really satisfied at the end of the day and after each meal. I've maintained my weight perfectly. I'm still waking up around 198, 199, which is where I was before I started this maintenance break. So like I'm going into this vacation not craving a ton of extra food. So it's going to make me more likely to be able to eat at maintenance when I'm on vacation. Excuse me. So that's one thing. Second thing I'm doing is while I'm there, I'm going to remember that calorie balance is king. Excuse me. Calorie balance is the most important thing at the end of the day when it comes to maintaining your weight in this short period of time. Now, like there are obviously other things to worry about long term if you want to change your body composition, like are we strength training? Are we lifting weights? Are we getting close to failure? Nutrition wise, are we eating enough protein? Like that matters too. But in the short term, in a span of just 7 days of can I maintain my body fat level and maintain my weight, calorie balance is the most important thing. So I'm definitely going to emphasize protein for sure. I'm definitely going to emphasize eating, as many fruits and vegetables as I can still while I'm on my trip. So I feel good and I'm getting the nutrients I know my body needs. But if I'm in a situation where like, I want something like a burger and fries or something that's greasier or something like a big plate of pasta or whatever, I know that calorie balance is king. So the amount of calories I'm burning versus how much I'm eating. So even if I have like the worst possible food choices in front of me and I can't ask for anything else, let's say if they brought in a plate of donuts for breakfast and they're like, this is all we got this morning, which won't happen. But if they did, I can at least control my portion size of the donut to help to maintain a good calorie balance. So at the end of the day, that's like the most important thing that I'm going to remember is no matter what foods I eat, whether if I eat ice cream every single day, eat donuts for every single meal, if I just eat the amount of calories that my body burns per day, even if it is from straight donuts, I'm not going to gain body fat back or any significant level in 7 days. So I think people kind of don't realize that and think their food choices make the biggest impact where, okay, I had a donut, so I'm automatically gaining body fat. When that's not the case. You could eat, if you burn 2,500 calories a day and you eat 2,000 calories worth of donuts, like you're probably going to actually lose body fat. You might lose some muscle too because your protein's not going to be there. But like you won't gain body fat eating 2,000 calories worth of donuts if you burn more than that per day. So that's number one. Number two thing I'm doing is I'm going to focus on just 3 main meals a day. So like sometimes people like go into vacations and they're just kind of constantly like munching and eating, and like they're having their breakfast, but then they're having, some kind of snack or brunch or whatever right afterwards, and they're having their lunch and having something after. I'm really gonna stick to mostly three main meals, which is what we kind of typically do. Like it's pretty normal. We wake up, sit down and have breakfast. We go to the beach or play in the pool. Then lunchtime, we go and sit and have lunch, and then we go to the beach or play in the pool. But like if there's like little snack bars and things in between meals, I'm really not gonna reach for those things unless I'm actually really hungry, or I just like look at him like, wow, that looks amazing. I really want to have it. But I think too many times people just mindlessly eat and they don't actually think about what they're eating and think about if they actually want to eat it or not. It's just like, oh, there's food. It's there. It's something to do, munch on something while I'm sitting at the beach or at the pool. But they're not really that hungry for it. And when they're eating it, it actually really doesn't like taste amazing. Like it tastes good, but so really just sticking to three kind of solid meals to kind of keep me full throughout the day. In those in between periods, I'm really not like gonna be eating. I'm not gonna restrict myself. Like I said, if there's something that looks amazing and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know, if walked past some kind of ice cream bar and I'm like, oh, that looks really good. Like I'll probably get some if that's the case. But if it's not a hell yes of, oh my God, that looks amazing, I'm not just gonna kind of just eat it just because it's there, because that'll always be there. And like I can enjoy these things when I'm here at home too. Like these foods aren't going to be foods that are only available at this resort. And that's kind of one other key thing, which I'll kind of cover at the very end because it's kind of related to this, but I'll cover it at the end. But big thing, second point or third point, three main meals a day. Next point is kind of talked on this actually just now. No mindless snacking between meals, especially because it's an all-inclusive resort. We're at the beach. It's going to be sunny. I'm probably going to want to have like a couple of drinks a day, maybe even a few. So the extra calories that I would maybe have through like snacks in between, I'll probably fill in with calories from alcohol. Maybe not every day. Maybe I won't have like necessarily a drink every day, but most days I probably will have two, maybe three drinks. I don't typically drink really at all. Every once in a while, if it's like a holiday, I'll have maybe one or two or some kind of celebration, but I just really like just don't drink very much. I'm trying to remember the last time I had a drink, and I don't even know when it was. It might have been um, my last drink might have been when we went to Disney in November, so it might have been like 5 months ago, if I remember right, because I know there was a chunk of time where I was prepping for my powerlifting meet, and I really didn't want to drink alcohol because it kind of messes with my sleep, and I just don't feel good the next day, and I didn't want to mess up like my numbers for my powerlifting meet at all, or mess up recovery. So it might have even been November maybe since my last drink. I don't know. I'm sure there was maybe one somewhere in between there, but not often. So like because of that, I go on vacation. The drinks are quote unquote free. The weather's warm, the sun is out. Probably going to get a margarita, probably going to get some other kind of fruity drink here and there. Might even get some kind of, coffee with some alcohol, maybe to start my day after breakfast or something. Because I never do it. So those calories will probably fill in any kind of extra calories that would be able to be filled in with like snacks. Like I would rather have, a drink between meals versus have like snacks fill in those calories, assuming I'm actually having good, balanced, solid meals. So I actually feel full between those. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to really think about my breakfast and my lunches being my quote unquote lighter meals. And maybe if I want to have something a little bit heavier for dinner, that's kind of what I do. This is kind of a tip I've given a lot of clients on vacation. It's really helped a lot. So, like for breakfast, think eggs or an omelet with some kind of fruit and maybe, a little bit of carbs from like, a couple slices of toast or maybe, a small pancake or something. But mostly that breakfast meal is going to be something lighter on my stomach, something that's a little bit more, protein heavy with like some fruit. I think last time we went to Punta Cana last year, I think I got their egg omelet. I think every single day I was there because it's just nice, start your day off with a high protein breakfast because I know my lunch and dinner might not be as high in protein as what like it typically is at home when I have a little bit more control over things. So I like to make my breakfast higher protein, mostly fruit with a little bit of carb in there versus, ordering like a big plate of pancakes, hash browns, and bacon. Like those two things can be drastically different in calories versus an omelet and fruit. So I try to make my breakfast a little bit lighter there. Lunch, I kind of think of it the same way. I want my lunch to be a little bit lighter too, just kind of getting me by, having me feel a little bit satisfied until my dinner. I'm not trying to make my breakfast be, or not my lunch, sorry, my lunch be this meal that's like making me feel really full where I want to go like take a big nap after. I want my lunch to be something that's going to satisfy me, but a little bit lighter, just until we kind of get to dinner, 4 hours later or so, however long, maybe 5 hours later. So like for lunch, maybe it's like a grilled chicken sandwich, maybe a little bit of French fries, and like I don't know, some kind of salad or whatever kind of shrimp cocktail or something appetizer they have there. Maybe a little bit of soup, but it's a little bit lighter. And when I think about this too, I not only think about like the lighter or fresher items, so like fish, chicken, eggs, fruit, salad, those types of things. But I also think about my fullness. And I try to stop when I'm around maybe 65 or 70% full. So think about like, your fullness on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0% to 100%. And 100% or 10 is like super full. I feel really uncomfortable. Those meals you have sometimes even after Thanksgiving where you just like want to lay on the couch, but you can't because it's uncomfortable when you actually lay down. So you got to sit up on the couch, but you almost get like groggy and tired because you did eat so much. And if someone were to like, hey, let's go and just go for like a fast paced walk, not even a jog, but a fast paced walk, and you're like, that might feel a little uncomfortable. Let's just start with the slow pace or maybe even just sit down for a little bit. Like that would be like 100% or 10. Try to stop around a 65% maybe or a 7-ish. So there's still some room in there. If I really wanted to eat something else, I could, but also I could stop and feel satisfied too. So we want to think about being satisfied, stopping when we're like 70% full or 7 out of 10 versus going to all the way fullness with these meals, at least for breakfast and lunch. That's kind of the guideline I'd like to give. And then I kind of like to have dinner be the one meal where like, I give myself full permission to like have it a little bit heavier. So because I chose lighter options for breakfast and lunch, I'm like, hey, if I want to have like a big plate of lasagna that's a little bit heavier in sauces and fats. A lot of people think, well, like carbs are where the calories really rack up, but it's really the sauces and the like full fat cheeses and where they're cooking things with a lot of butter and cream. That's where the calories really rack up, are those calories from fats. But if I want dinner to be a little bit heavier there with that kind of stuff, along with maybe having like more of a dessert for dinner and a drink and an appetizer, and that being a little bit heavier of a meal, and maybe eating until maybe I'm like 90% full or 95% or maybe even close to 100. Because I did choose lighter options for breakfast and lunch, it gives me that flexibility. Now, you don't want to like restrict yourself and starve yourself the first half of the day because now you're really going to binge for dinner then. But, giving yourself a little bit of a room, like I said, stopping when you're like 70% full, choosing the lighter options for breakfast and lunch can give you a little bit more wiggle room for dinner to just kind of, quote unquote, indulge, a little bit more, but still end up in your, maintenance calorie level there. Um, uh, and another thing too is like just being picky kind of about the appetizers, desserts, and drinks that you either order or get. Like, and this kind of goes back to that like snack example where I said, like, if it's not a hell yes, then I'm probably not going to eat it between my meals. And same thing goes for like the appetizers, desserts. Like, sure, it's fun to like try and taste different things. So, like, it's already paid for. So, if there's an appetizer that looks like it could be good, order it maybe and eat a little bit. But if it's not like as you're eating it, a hell yes of, oh my God, this is so good, I really want to eat it still, then don't feel pressure to finish it. You don't have to finish it, or you don't have to order it in the first place, right? Like just because someone next to you, like, my wife, Brittany, if she's ordering an appetizer and I look at the appetizer list for, that meal, because a lot of times like the menu changes for each meal. And I'm like, there's not really anything on here that really catches my eye, then I'm just not going to order it. So just being a little bit picky, not of like super picky of, I don't know, like the traditional sense of picky, but just being picky and choosy about like, this probably isn't going to fulfill me that much. It doesn't like sound that good. am I just eating it because I feel like it's what I'm supposed to do or what other people are doing? Or is it because like I'm actually hungry or it really tastes that good? So just having that mentality just already like really helps a lot. Um, Talks about stopping 70% full. Another thing too is I'm going to remember everything that I've learned through all of my years of tracking food while I'm there. And specifically, like the calorie balance part of it, or how many calories certain foods have in them. Um, so, this is where the power of having previous history of tracking your food and actually tracking it accurately, not just pulling out my Pal and eyeballing things and logging things, because that's really not that accurate, but actually using a food scale, weighing and measuring your food consistently for weeks, months, years on end, with some breaks, obviously, for celebrations and things. And this is why, like, our one on one clients end up seeing a lot of success in vacation after they've had like weeks and months of tracking, is because they've learned so much about the composition of food. They can look at a 4 ounce piece of meat and be like, okay, that's roughly 4 ounces, which is roughly maybe 200 calories, 150 calories, depending on what kind of meat it is. They can visually look at like a plate of pasta and be like, okay, well, based off of the pasta that I've measured and weighed at home, that ends up being 200 calories or 300 calories, this plate is likely maybe 500 calories worth of pasta. Or same thing with, desserts or drinks and all this. Like when you have so much experience tracking your food, you like subconsciously can register that stuff, even if you're not tracking, because I'm not going to track my food on this trip, but I'm going to be able to look at something for dinner and see this big plate of lasagna and be like, okay, this is probably like 800 calories based off of other lasagnas I've logged at home. And, I know my lunch and breakfast look like this. So, like, this kind of closely adds up to maybe this approximately. Like, if I eat this lasagna and have a little bit of dessert, probably going to be close to my maintenance calories. Or I could look at that and be like, okay, if I eat this whole plate of lasagna and this dessert, like, I'm probably definitely going to be over my maintenance calories. And I know I'm going to feel really uncomfortable and full. So, maybe I'm just not going to get dessert tonight. Like, and that's like thought processes that can go through your head without even you pulling out my fitness pal and logging it, just referencing your previous knowledge. It's almost like if you went to a store that had no like pricing labels on anything, and they were just kind of everyday household items like a trash can, a vacuum, this and that. Because you've gone to so many other stores where you could actually see the prices, you could probably look at that stuff, and assuming it's not like this weird like brand name thing where it's just artificially the price is way up when really like it doesn't do anything extra special. If it's just your everyday items, you probably could guess, oh, a trash can, it's probably going to be roughly this amount, to buy this, or a gallon of milk, it's probably going to be roughly this amount. Like you have that previous knowledge from shopping so much and like actually looking at those prices. So now when those prices aren't available to you, you can still kind of gauge that. And same thing you can do with food when you've tracked your calories and tracked your food for so long and have developed that skill and that like bank of knowledge of how many calories are in certain things and what that portion size visually looks like then when you measure it out. And it helps so much for you to subconsciously be able to stick to around your maintenance calorie level because you have so much experience with tracking your food, so much experience with putting this calorie number to this portion size of this food item, so much experience of like what that looks like in a total day, of like how many calories you approximately eat per meal and how many calories you approximately eat for the day, right? Like if I'm trying to aim for 3,000 calories in a day and I have, let's say, 3 meals a day, but I have some drinks sprinkled in, I might think, okay, I might have 600 calories worth of drinks for the day, 200 calories each, 3 drinks a day. That leaves me with 2,400 calories for my 3 meals. Let's say I have, the 3 meals a day. That's around 800 calories I have per meal. And it's not that hard for me to kind of look at a plate of food of breakfast that I order and be like, okay, this is roughly a couple hundred calories. This is probably this. This adds up to maybe around 700 or 800. And then if I do that for that meal, then I can do the same process for lunch. And it's not me recording anything in my food log. I'm not going to pull out my Fitness Pal, but it's just referencing that bank of information and knowledge that you have. So that is so helpful. And I can't explain how valuable it is to track your food for an extended period of time, even if you don't even make progress during that portion. Just tracking it and tracking it accurately allows you to just have so many tools and so much skill underneath you to like be able to do that stuff on the fly when you're on vacation. um, Other thing I'm doing is Just really avoiding the all or nothing mindset. I think a lot of times when people go into vacations or trips, they'll have like one meal where they do get a big plate of pancakes and bacon and hash browns for breakfast and they feel really full after and they're like, well, I ruined my vacation. And it's like, no, you didn't ruin your vacation from one meal. Even if you did that for a whole entire day, you didn't ruin your vacation as far as maintaining your weight. And you could always make a decision next time that suits your goals better. So, like, if my goal is to maintain my weight and I have a really heavy breakfast, I can always choose to have a really light lunch next and a light dinner maybe for that day to kind of balance it out. Or if I have like 2 days in a row where I have, I don't know, let's say I have 6 drinks a day and I have a bunch of really heavy food items that make me feel really full and I'm eating to like 100% fullness instead of 70% for like 2 or 3 days straight. That fourth day, I can always wake up and be like, okay, I'm not going to be super restrictive and go on a diet while I'm on vacation, but I'm going to choose lighter options, for a couple of days so I feel a little bit better. So, what you did 5 minutes ago, what you did 10 minutes ago, what you did the previous day does not have to impact what you do right now. You can always like make a better decision that's suited towards your goals, your expectations for your next decision. You don't have to wait until the next day. You don't have to wait until you get back from vacation. You don't have to wait until the next meal necessarily either. You don't even have to wait till the next bite, or like, I guess the next bite you could, but like you could make that change the next bite, right? So, just really avoiding that all or nothing mindset there too. And then this was kind of the point I was going to touch on before is, um, like I know ice cream, cookies, cake, lasagna, burgers, all this stuff I can eat on an everyday basis here at home if I really want to. A lot of times people think those foods are just so bad, like in a vacuum in and of itself. And like they should be avoiding those foods at all costs when they're at home. And that when they're at home and they're in their fat loss phase or they're on their diet, they can't eat ice cream or that's bad. Or they can't eat a donut or they feel guilty. Or they can't eat pizza or that's bad. So then they go on vacation, they give themselves like a free pass to eat this stuff without it feeling bad to them mentally. And they're like, well, this is my 7 day period to really enjoy all these foods guilt free. So I'm going to really make the most of it. But you can and I can enjoy pizza at home when it's not vacation, guilt free anyway. There's no reason why those foods need to be associated with guilt, like in your everyday life when it's not vacation. Now, if you're overeating those foods and you're going over your calorie goal and maybe you're not hitting your protein goal and you do that consistently, are you going to see the physical changes you want? Probably not, but it's nothing to feel guilty about. And also, when you learn how to be able to fit those things in, like a lot of our one on one clients do, and at the same time, still hit your calorie and protein goals while having some pizza or ice cream here and there and still see progress, and then you really have no guilt associated with it because now you're like, I can actually see progress while eating these things in moderation anyway. So, like, I'm on vacation, they have pizza. I don't need to indulge in it because I can just have a piece of pizza when I get back from my trip, in a couple of days. Like, there's no reason why these foods have to be just vacation foods and these are foods just at home. Like, the food choices I make on vacation look very similar to the food choices I make at home. And it's not that I'm eating super healthy on vacation, quote unquote healthy. It's not that I'm like not enjoying myself on vacation, but it's that I enjoy myself in moderation in the right way at home too. So the food choices just don't look that different. So I don't have this, okay, let me eat all the ice cream I can or all the dessert I can while on a vacation because when I get home, no more dessert. Like, don't have that mentality. So when you don't have that mentality, you're less likely to binge and overeat when you are on that trip. And I guess kind of my very last point too is like I kind of mentioned with the food tracking, when you have that knowledge of how many calories are in certain things, what that feels like to eat that, you kind of can tell, okay, am I overeating throughout the day of my maintenance calories or am I not? And just having that wherewithal of like what it feels like physically to eat, 3,000 calories if you burn 3,000 calories, or what it feels like physically to eat 2,000 calories if you burn 2,000 calories. When you know what that feeling is, then you're better to gauge it in the moment when you're eating throughout the day so you don't overdo it too. Um, And this is why like maintenance phases, diet breaks, even maintenance days that we incorporate within a fat loss week for our one-on-one clients are so important because it teaches you to actually shoot for the higher calorie range, to shoot for your maintenance calories, and you track that and you eat that and you connect to how that makes you feel then. So then when you're in a moment where you can't actually track it, you can kind of tune into your hunger cues and satiety cues and fullness cues to kind of know what that feels like so you can stop around there. So those are all the things I'm doing, and be transparent too. Like I'm not probably not even going to take my Oura ring, so I'm not even going to be tracking my steps. I do not plan to get any workouts in while I'm on my trip either. Like I get my workouts in every other week of the year unless I'm sick. So let's say if I'm sick 1 week out of the year, maybe 2 weeks, and I go on a vacation for maybe 2 weeks out of the year at some point. 48 weeks of the year, I'm nailing my workouts every day. Not every day, but like nailing my workouts, every week. So if 4 weeks out of 52, I don't get my workouts from just a combination of maybe being sick a couple times and then vacation, like it's not going to impact my progress long term. And as long as I, tune into my hunger cues and satiety cues and implement all those tips that I just mentioned, then um, I'll probably stay, right around my maintenance calories and, come back within 1 or 2 pounds from the weight that I left off at. And, that'll be perfect. So hopefully this was helpful, for, your next trip, whether it be all inclusive or not. All these tips can be applied, for those two. But like I said in the beginning, the big thing is if you can at least control your portion sizes and your calorie balance, then like you'll be golden regardless of what happens then. So hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if it was, and I will see you guys in the next one.